3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to the God is Awesome podcast, where we interview everyday Christians about their testimony about how God has changed and worked in their life. My name is Aaron, and we have a special guest with us in Nelson Sanchez. Nelson, say what's up to everybody.
What's up, everybody?
We are super happy to have you here on the podcast, and really interested in listening to how God has worked in your life. And if you guys didn't know, this is what we do. Like, my name's Aaron. I'm just a regular guy interviewing people. If you guys find this testimony, useful, or, someone else could relate to it, please share it with them. Please invite people to the group and join in the comments down below. I'm sure Nelson would not object to, having discussions. I know who he is. I know how he likes to do it. And so he has discussions with people. And so it'll be really helpful. Anyway, I'm just going to kick it over to Nelson. Nelson, thank you so much again for being on here. Maybe start with your origin story, where you're coming from, how you grew up, and how, shaping forces into how you thought about God before Christ, and just kind of origin story. So off you go.
All right. My name is Nelson, guys. I'm from Colombia. I was born in Colombia 30 years ago, and I came here when I was 9. But growing up, in Colombia, my dad's family is Jehovah's Witness, and I basically grew up around my grandmother, who was a Jehovah's Witness, and the foundations were really in that religion type of thing. So it was basically based on the Bible, based on the Bible law, and just that was the type of foundation. I mean, I went to meetings with them. I was never actually a Jehovah's Witness, but I attended a lot of stuff like that. My mom was a Catholic, but not really a practicing Catholic. So okay. It was really just my grandmother and my aunts that would take me to those meetings, and that was kind of what I would see as far as anything that had to be related with God.
Gotcha. So your first exposure to religion and spirituality was from your grandparents.
Yes, from my grandmother. My
grandmother, and then your parents were nominal Jehovah's Witness.
Right. No, so my dad wasn't a practicing Jehovah's Witness, okay, and my mom was just a nominal Catholic. So it was just, there wasn't really any which way. They kind of just let me grow into whatever I wanted to be.
Right.
Yes, thank you I did get a fresh cut for the interview. So they let me grow into whatever I wanted to be.
Gotcha.
But my grandmother and my aunts, they definitely were pushing me, hey, become a Jehovah's Witness type of thing.
Oh, so how did that shape you? Were you interested?
So for me, when like I said, I came when I was 9, so I was a kid, right? Okay. And growing up in that community, it's cool because you have a sense of belonging. I wanted to belong to that community because sure, everybody's going out, going door to door, and they're loving God. Or
yeah. This looks cool.
I'm that's cool. I want to be a part of it. Yeah. And I honestly think if I would have stayed in Colombia, I would have probably become a Jehovah's Witness.
No kidding, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have stayed in there, but
sure.
But with it, it's the love bombing, and it's there's a lot of
love bomb. What is that?
So with these types of religions, it's before you become a Jehovah's Witness, it's there's so much love. Everybody has so much love, right?
Oh, bait and switch.
But once you're in it, then it's oh, now you have to keep the law. Now you have to make sure you maintain these things, sure, and everybody becomes almost a spy on each other. So it's it seems super cool for me from the outside.
So did your parents feel that spyness? Why weren't they Jehovah's Witness?
My dad actually ended up leaving just because he got tired of kind of the rules, basically. Okay. And my mom just never really got to that.
Gotcha.
She didn't really like it.
Okay. Yeah. So you came to Florida when you were 9?
Right. So,
and you're kind of saying that God, that was kind of providential from God.
Yeah. I mean, God took me out of there. Otherwise, I would have probably ended up in there.
Man,
and so I come here, and I had a super great family. My parents raised me completely right. I was raised to be good. And basically when we got here, it was just we didn't go anywhere. We didn't have any religion in the house, no talk about God. So which was fine for me because I was a kid. Like by now I'm like going into like teenage years, and it's like, oh, I don't want no part of that God stuff, dude. Like,
what did they teach you about God, or was it just absent?
It was just absent, really. I mean, I think I caught a little bit here and there, like I said, from like more from my dad's family, but nothing really. It wasn't like the household wasn't like a religious household.
Gotcha. So how did that shape, like, what kind of mindset did you come out of when out of your teen years?
So with Jehovah's Witnesses, like one of the biggest things that they say is that like all other religions are like from the devil.
Okay.
So, and like they really like,
is that real? Like they're all of the devil?
Yes, like every other religion is like controlled by the devil.
Okay.
So with that, they say like there's all the false teachings everywhere else, and that like Christians are like hypocrites and like they are in it for the money, and like you see like all these different like pastors who like basically take all the money from the sheep.
Sure.
And my dad kind of like hates religion because like he got tired of Jehovah's Witnesses, and he got taught that whole thing from being young himself.
So he hates it. It's not that he's,
I mean, yeah, he just dislikes it.
Gotcha.
And so he kind of like not directly taught it to me, but just like from him, like himself. So he would critique like whenever like Catholics like would do something like
comments
that, or like
his opinions.
Oh, look at these Christians. So like that kind of like seeped in, and I had that going into it for myself.
Gotcha.
So like basically like going into my teenage years, I didn't want to have anything to do with religion. Like I wanted to live my own life, and I honestly saw myself as like such a more moral person than like some of like the people that I would see that would say that they're Christians or whatever.
Okay.
Not that I didn't really have too many friends that were Christians, or I didn't have any friends that were Christians. Really.
Gotcha. Just like from afar, you would see Christians and be like, I'm way better
like
than
these
them
people.
Anyway.
And it's like, it became really like all of the cliche things where it's like, oh yeah, like religion's an opiate of the masses. Like I don't really
explain that saying for me.
So it's like
opiate of the masses,
right? So it's like a drug, right?
Okay.
And it's like it's this belief that people become Christians because they can't handle the real world.
Gotcha. It's a crutch.
And it's like exactly. It's like a crutch, and they use it almost like a drug. An opiate is a drug.
Yep.
It's like that people do it like take on religion because they just can't fathom death
and that was your understanding of what religion is for other people. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what I had like for the longest, although like I never lost a belief in God. I just like for some reason like I just figured like, well, no one can really know him. Like all these people, there's all these different religions, and no one knows,
right?
Like they're Islam, like they all lead to God in some way, and like as long as you live a good life, like you'll make it there.
So would you say you're agnostic or atheist at this time?
I was agnostic. I never became like an atheist. I always believed God was there.
Gotcha. So where did that mindset or worldview, where did that take you from there? How did that?
Right.
So
I mean, honestly, like my life was great. I didn't have anything going on bad.
No drugs?
I didn't have any.
You didn't get stabbed?
Like, nothing.
You didn't.
Nothing. I had like I had tons of friends.
Yeah.
I was enjoying life. I graduated high school. Like I went to college.
Sure.
Like everything was good.
Yeah.
Like no reason for me to go.
No rock bottom.
No rock bottom.
Kind of up here.
No
Dude,
reason.
you know how many people's testimonies are like, I wish my life was kind of like that.
I was like, before I did the testimony, I'm like, man, like I never had like my life was good before.
Bro, do I got to take drugs to?
Right? No, well, not necessarily. It was just like man, like my testimony is not like
boring,
that crazy, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, like my life was good. Like I my family is great. Like great upbringing. Sure. Like I felt very loved.
Loving parents,
loving family. In college actually I met you.
Yep.
And we had a class together, and like we hit it off. Like we became friends, and we started hanging out, and like we started partying and like all this stuff. And turns out you're a Christian. I'm like,
I'm a Christian.
What is this mess, man? Like,
let me ask you something, man. Let me ask you something. All right. So it's funny because I think like Nelson's testimony is like one of the few that I think I'm heavily involved in, right? So what went through your brain after like knowing that we're partying together, like heavy drinking, out in the clubs, all that stuff? What went through your brain when you found out I was a Christian?
Well, when I found out you were a Christian, it kind of threw me off because I already have this like stereotypical picture of a Christian in my mind, right? Like it's like either they're holier than thou, and it's like, oh, they're judging me, like, and I'm better than them type of thing. Like I'm like, and like I met you, and you're just like super down to earth. And I'm like, oh man, like this guy's just like me. Like we're just hanging out, we're friends, and he's a Christian, so that was kind of cool. Like I was like, oh man, like it was cool in the sense of like it was very approachable.
Okay.
And we became friends.
And a lot of times Christians you didn't find approachable.
Right. Yeah. It was like when I feel like someone's like feels like that they're better than you or something like that, then I'm like, oh, I don't want to be your friend.
Yeah, there's this distance or wall or something.
Like, but then there was also the flip side of it, which was like, dude, like, how are you going to claim to be a Christian? And like, you're living just like me.
Yeah, I know, man. That's my testimony, bro. I don't know.
Actually, so hashtag Aaron's testimony. If you guys want to hear Aaron's testimony, let's make this a thing. Every single testimony. Hashtag Aaron testimony.
All right, back to Nelson says. So you find out I'm a Christian. I'm honored that I could play this small role in your testimony, but like, where does this go from here? Like, how did this?
Right. So, I mean, we continued hanging out and stuff. And one time you were just like, hey man, like, why don't you just become a youth leader? And I looked at you and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, I'm not even a Christian and you're going to make me go be a youth leader at your church. And you were just a youth leader at that time. So we would have been like at the same level.
Yeah. So if anyone's watching, it kind of puts me on blast a little bit, but I was not the youth pastor at the time. I was a youth leader. Still working some stuff out. Again, not about me. I'm just letting people out there know so I don't get fired or anything.
So God used that horrible decision that Aaron made. Yeah. And I started to go to youth group and it was cool. Like, I mean, I had never seen anything like it. Like,
so you were non-Christian.
And like I said, the only meetings I had ever gone to were like Jehovah's Witness, like super monotone, like there's nothing for the kids.
Oh yeah. Thing, okay. Right? Yeah. That's a good framework.
So seeing like all these kids have games and like Christian like music, it was like at that time it was just like the hymnals at the Jehovah's Witness thing.
Right.
So for me it was cool. I'm like, man, like this seems like something that I as a kid would have enjoyed.
Yeah.
If I was a kid and like I could worship my own way and I can like grow as it. So I don't know. I thought it was cool for like the kids that were there. Yeah. But it was also funny because I'm like, the kids would ask me questions about the Bible and I'm like, yeah, you just believe God, bro. just believe him. Just read your Bible. So anywho, I continued going and I would listen to the sermons and stuff and they would make sense. It was cool. It was interesting.
Who was giving the sermons? Jackie?
It was Jackie Muncie at the time. And
great youth director.
Yeah, she was a great youth director. I got to listen to those sermons and we actually had a missions trip and you were like, oh, let's go on a missions trip. And I was like, oh, cool, man. I've never been on one. So we went to West Virginia.
Yeah.
And it was cool. We got to do stuff over it was like a school, like an old school.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing really about it sticks out in my mind other than the fact that we like planned to like walk all of the continent of Africa.
Yeah, that's a real thing, guys. We were preparing to walk across Africa.
But this one thing did stick out in my mind, which was like we were sitting out in front of the school and like it was just me and you and we were just like sitting on the bench just kind of like resting after we got done doing something. And you were like, hey man, like you're my best friend and I would really like it if you came like to paradise or to heaven together, like if you were in heaven with me. And I was like, man, that is like super genuine of someone to say, especially like another guy, like to say that to another guy.
Sure.
Like that's super vulnerable. And I really appreciated that. And at the time I wasn't a Christian or anything like that, but I think that was like the first thing to soften my hard heart.
Yeah.
Like the seed that was planted. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think, it just sticks out in my mind.
That was after years.
That's after years of friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was probably like 3 or 4 years that we were friends. And so That was then. That was like college. Yeah, that was like end of college, right?
Yeah.
So that was like around that.
Well, I thought we were gonna die when we walked across Africa.
Right. It's a good thing we
I
didn't.
was
Right.
just trying to let you know, man. Like, hey, this is a serious thing. I really believe this thing. So,
Yeah.
all right. So after college, we had this, hard discussion, right? At least vulnerable for me. Where did you go from there?
So like, I continued just kind of like living my own life. I knew you were like you at that time. I think you decided to become you got promoted to youth pastor.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like I was like, hey man, like you follow your own path and I'm gonna do mine. So I'm going to like focus on my career, try to like find a wife type of thing. And I did find my girlfriend at the time, and we dated for a while and got married and stuff. So
Carrie's awesome.
Carrie's
awesome.
amazing.
Yep.
So, but nothing really that like drew me in to church, like I was just like, okay, like you planted that seed, but that was a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Whatever.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah, like it softened my heart a little bit, but I still love my sin. But honestly, like I felt like I was a good person. Yeah. Totally. Like I was like, all right, well, I'm not living my life wrong.
So what changed? What happened?
So we had this thing with like our lease, and my wife like was like super distraught about it, and she was like, oh man, like our car. Mm-hmm. And she asked her friends to like pray for us because like we were going in and they were gonna like rake us over the head because we were gonna pay a bunch of money. She asked her friends to pray for her. Yeah, but she wasn't a Christian. She wasn't a Christian. Gotcha. Right, but it's funny why that happens. Yeah, it happens. I think it's like when we're at our wits' end, we realize we can't control anything, and we just pray. But so she did, and we were at the dealership, and the guy's like, oh, don't I know you from like Sunlight or something? And they always like, I get confused for you all the time. So I was like, no, you're probably talking about Aaron. And Carrie's like, it's a sign. So she's like, we have to go to church tomorrow. We have to go to church. And like, I've always been open to coming to church because like, you're my friend. And I was like, oh yeah, like I don't mind. Sure. So, and you've been so many times. Yeah. Already. So I was like, all right, we can start going regularly. So we start going, and like Carrie has this like moment of like conversion. Like she's just like, she's been going to church before, and like, she finally just understood the gospel, and like, it just hit her. What just hit her? Like, I don't know. You don't know? I don't know. Just, and I couldn't understand it. I just like looked at her and I'm like, what are you talking about? She got hit first. Yes. Oh, okay. So I'm like, what happened? And so she became a Christian, and I didn't have it. And I've never been that person to be like, I just want to be a follower. I just want to be a Christian because my friends are Christian. Like, no, when I was younger, yes, but like after college, like I'm my own person, man. Yeah. Like I don't need to be a follower. So your wife becomes a Christian after what, one sermon, or after? There was like three sermons that like just like spoke to her. Gotcha. And so she tells you she's a Christian now. Yeah. And then you're like, good for you. I'm like, that's awesome. Like super cool. Like I wish I had that. Okay. But I don't. Gotcha. And I'm not faking it. Like we're continuing to come to church and stuff. And so there was a sermon where Pastor Scott was like, hey man, like if you like, and I'm paraphrasing because he doesn't say hey man, but he's like, if you are struggling with your faith, like pray to God that he gives you this faith, like that he gives it to you, because faith is a gift from God. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, like, all right. So I bowed my head and I was like, all right, I guess I'll just pray this, because I wanted it, but like I just didn't have it. Sure. And he's like, just put my head down, I guess. So I do, and yeah, I mean, no huge pivotal moment, just continued coming to church. Okay. So they had this Dave Ramsey thing, and it was like a financial peace class, and I was like, Carol, you have to go. So we went. Interesting. And one of the biggest barriers that I had was like, I've always thought like Christian churches are just like businesses. Sure. And they're just like trying to draw people in. So people tithe, mm-hmm. and then like they take that tithe and they use the money for stuff. Right. So I had this barrier, it's always been there since I was young.
And that's a lot
like,
of people's barriers.
right?
For sure.
So, and at the end of this financial peace class, like Dave Ramsey does this great job of just like laying it out. He's like, listen, like the church doesn't need your money. Like they're all right. Like they're gonna be fine. God's gonna take care of them. Like God doesn't need your money. He owns everything.
Yeah.
Like he definitely doesn't need your money. He's like, he's trying to change you into a more giving person.
Yeah.
So I was like, huh, like I've never heard it like that. So it softened my heart a little bit more. And Carrie and I had a road trip to like North Carolina for a wedding, and we just discussed it like the whole time. It was like 9 hours, and we just like, we're not discussing it. We just like talked about it.
Really?
Like, oh man, like yeah. So like at the end of it, I was like, I think I'm ready. Like I think we could try this. Like let's try it.
Try
like,
what?
Let's try tithing.
Oh.
Because we've been going to church for a while, right? So
Yeah.
So I was like, let's try it.
You don't think you were a Christian at this time?
I don't know. I don't honestly. I mean, I think it's just like a long process. I've never had like a moment where I'm just like, hey, I'm like, oh, I've had it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying at that point I didn't have
Gotcha. Okay.
So then it's like it was like $600, like the amount that we had to tithe for the month.
Oh man.
And I'm like, man, that's a chunk of change. You know what we can do?
$600.
So
Church is just taking my money.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, well, like, let's take the leap. Let's do it. So we do. And like, I think that like the next day we had to change our insurance, our health insurance, and we were paying $700 a month. And we found an insurance that was better for $100 a month. $600 exactly.
$600.
And like Carrie and I look at each other and we're like,
that was the next day.
like, what? So that was like a huge like leap. Like it was like boom. I was like, oh man, like that is super cool.
Yeah.
So now like I'm like slowly, I don't know exactly when it was, when I'm just like I became a Christian. And like I have just like doubts. I'm like, well, what about who, like men wrote the Bible type of thing.
Sure.
So
That's a big
I'm like,
doubt too.
and
why aren't these guys just lying about
right,
it? Yeah.
right. And so I go and I like seek answers. Like I would ask you, or I would just like go online on YouTube, and I would find them. And every doubt that I would have, like, would bring me like closer, and like bring my faith like into such a greater like thing. Like it just became bigger. Like
yeah,
because I would find the answer to like the questions that I would have, and like my faith would be just that much stronger.
A genuine curiosity,
right,
led to like proving that God is like
right.
This is all legitimate.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Like, but I had the faith first.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So like I had the faith first, and then I would just go find the answers. Like it's like I was like, hey man, like if this is real, like I should have no fear of like
truth or false.
Yeah, like true. Yeah. And I did, and that's how it's been. Like every time I've had a doubt, like I just go, and I like the way my personality is, like I need to know, and I just go and I find.
You have an innate curiosity or adherence to truth,
right? And
so like you seek that out, and then whatever it comes out, like that's where you land. That's what's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's really amazing though, because it, like from that very first seed to where I am now, like even as a person, like I've just seen this change. And
what's the change? Is it
within,
outlook on life?
No, it's with everything. I mean, it's just like, it's such a huge change. Like I just, with a different worldview, it's like just how you view the world is completely different. I mean, whenever you accept the Bible as your foundation and as your truth, like as the truth, it really changes everything. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, if you were to tell me 2 years ago that I was going to be in church 5 days a week, I would have told you, you're crazy. Yeah. Like, no, I love other stuff. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But now I love this stuff. Yeah. And I don't know how that works. Sure. I don't know how God did that. Yeah. But it wasn't me.
Yeah, that's for sure. For sure. Yeah. And so God has like put you on this path of deeper understanding of truth in the world, of ourselves, of how reality is structured out. Where is he taking you out from here? Like, what do you see yourself doing? Like, you've got this faith, you've got this understanding, and I know some other places we could go into, but generally, where do you want to go? Where do you feel like God's leading you?
You know, I think God has given me a lot of gifts to where I'm very personable with people, and that I have this ability to teach.
Okay.
And I think somewhere in that field of teaching, just teaching the Bible, teaching the Word, and I don't know. I think that it's in that generality.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think knowing you for a while now, you have a really simple and clear way to explain something to someone so that they get it also. And it's teaching, but it's, I could see it in like small conversations or like on a stage or whatever. If you guys didn't know, like I've witnessed Nelson become one of the leading experts in Jehovah's Witness apologetics that I've ever witnessed. I mean, like honestly, he's really humble about this kind of stuff, but he's a voracious reader, and right now he's trying to get his THM, like a THM, like just read all the classes and take all the and download all of the lectures and ingest it. Tell me a little bit about the Jehovah's Witness and your kind of interactions and encounters. I know it's kind of delicate because it's an ongoing ministry, an ongoing process. But I think it roots in two different places. One, your families and how you got, your upbringing, and two, your desire for truth. And so like, what are some things that you could tell us about, your experiences in understanding the Jehovah's Witness organization?
Well, so we've done a lot of ministering to Jehovah's Witnesses. We've had a lot of them over at the house, and we've done various studies with them. I actually work with a Jehovah's Witness,
Mm-hmm.
so I have a lot of contact with it. It's a high control religion, and it basically shuts out everything from the outside, to where the people are almost isolated from the world.
Mm-hmm.
And with it comes like a lot of issues for the people that are in it, in that they become almost like they don't have anyone else if they were to leave that. Right.
Gotcha. So they're very dependent or
exactly
attached.
Yes. And it works out in that way so that people don't leave. So, for example, like if I were to say, well, I'm not Christian anymore, and you would still be my friend.
Yeah.
Right. But if that were to happen in the Jehovah's Witness organization, like I would lose my family members. I would lose, like, no one would talk to me.
Yeah.
And
stakes are high.
Yes.
Stakes are high.
I mean, it's similar in Islam, where if people leave that,
sure,
like you could be.
Sure.
So it's, but the reality comes in that you have to witness to them using the scriptures, and because they say that they love the scriptures, they should listen to that as the authority.
Right.
Sadly, the Watchtower and like the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses is the true authority in that religion,
mm-hmm.
but people don't come to that realization. And even when they do, they're already so committed that they just don't want to leave, or they can't leave.
So let me line this out then. So someone who's a Jehovah's Witness thinks that they put scripture as the highest authority, but in reality, the organization is the highest authority, acting as it, and that they use the scriptures to, give credibility or justify what they say.
Correct.
Okay. And then that the stakes are high because if they're in a organization or community rather of Jehovah's Witnesses, if they leave or do they express doubt there, or is it like is doubt like a free thing to talk about?
No, it's not a free thing. So
okay.
It's you once you get to a certain point when you're already a baptized Jehovah's Witness, you can express doubt outward. I mean, it just so happens like if you may have like one friend that you can share it with within the organization. But even then, like gotcha. It's not like an open thing. Like if I was to say, like, you know what, I'm doubting my faith. I just don't know if I believe in this Bible, or if I believe that in the resurrection. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be shunned. No one's going to tell me like, hey man, like you need to stop questioning the organization or whatever.
Yeah. What about struggle with sin? Like is that open? Is that an open thing?
No, of course not. Okay. So it's a very outer, like you have to look the part
Gotcha.
type of thing.
Okay. Wow. So for anyone listening, just maybe close off this segment. Like, do you have any advice? So if like I'm sitting at home and someone knocks on the door, it's Jehovah's Witness. Do you have any advice for that first interaction with anyone? For anyone listening right now?
Share the gospel, man.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Like the people, if you understand the gospel, you have to share it, man. The gospel has the power to save people, and it's just really that simple.
Sure.
Open the door.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people hide.
Yeah.
And if you're hiding, it might be because you don't know what you believe, and that says more about your own faith than it does about the Jehovah's Witnesses outside.
Oh, dang. So if you're hiding, if you don't want to open the door and engage, basically, you might not feel secure in your own faith and what you believe.
So one thing that I do appreciate, obviously, about the zeal of the Jehovah's Witnesses is that they go door to door and talk to strangers about their faith. Sure. I mean, we don't do that.
Do you think that's a problem? Like,
of course.
How would we evangelize, essentially? What's like a normal way to not be creepy? Like, would you want to go door to door?
Not necessarily go door to door, but I mean, it becomes almost to where people don't even share their faith. Like, I had no idea some people were Christian, like, at all. Yeah. No one shared the gospel with me. Yeah. I had to go to church to get it.
Yeah. Myself included. For sure.
I mean, what is the truth? Like,
yeah, for sure.
And
I think I was scared, maybe. I don't know.
Of course. It is scary. Yeah. It's scary to talk to someone because it's by nature offensive.
Sure.
Like,
you're a sinner.
It's offensive.
Jesus, yeah.
It's offensive. Yeah. I mean, but we're called to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
So how would we do it? Like, help me help someone that we're telling someone who's listening, hey, you got to share the gospel. But like, I think the initial question is how or with whom. I think with anyone, right? I guess.
Yeah.
But how would you do that?
Right. Well, I mean, they're like, the whole gospel is like you have this relationship with someone. So you bring someone into your house and you get to know them a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then you like, they're obviously trying to share their faith with you, and you have an opportunity to say, hey, well, this is what I believe and this is why, and like just go through step by step. Like, we all fall short of the glory of God. Yeah. That we need a savior, and that God came down as the God-man Jesus Christ and died for our sins, and he conquered sin and death. Yeah. And because of that, we are now able to have those good works that comes from the Spirit that indwells in us after we accept Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. And lining that out, you have to know the gospel. Anyway,
yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. If you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to shut the door when they come to the
door. Come to church. Do you think that's a thing? Like, is that the new evangelism? Hey, come to church instead of, hey.
Of course, it's lazy.
It's lazy.
It's laziness. I mean, I do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I did it for a long time. I'm
Sure.
like, hey, man, like, you just come to church, and we were like, all right, yeah.
Do you think how many Christians do you think out of all the Christians know the actual gospel, know what, like, the gospel, the good news that saves us?
Not that many.
Really? Why is that?
I mean, so I can tell you this, like, intellectually, you can know what it is, right? I knew it for a long time.
Right. The steps.
Like, I knew what the steps were,
Sure.
But when you understand like how deep your own sin is and how much your need for a savior is, it really becomes like real. Like, you're like, oh man, like, that is good news.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that story that you said about you were in a barbershop or something? You said the gospel. Do you remember that?
In a barbershop.
Yeah, I remember. I think this was you. I think you told me you were in a barbershop and there were two people arguing about what the gospel was. And then you corrected them. Was that you?
No.
Oh man, that's not you. My bad. I thought so. I guess I'm just trying to define what the difference is between knowing intellectually and knowing internally for someone.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think it goes down to like the faith, like it, because I can read something, but like, unless it's that heart change.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
And that only comes from God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, it's not of our own doing.
Cool. Do you have any other maybe pieces of advice or things like kind of guiding words or experience to say to someone who's listening out there who might be dealing with doubt and skepticism, or might have some things like these barriers to belief? Like, do you have anything to say to these people who might be listening right now?
Oh yeah, man. Go look for those answers. Ask your pastors, ask your friends, your leaders, challenge them. Like like if they don't know, like they should be knowing those things too, you know.
Sure.
I mean, we need to know how to defend our faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nelson, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. We always finish off with this last question. Before we do, if you guys really resonated with his testimony, please like and share this podcast with someone who might find it interesting. And it's a tool for Nelson and for you guys to maybe evangelize a little more and get like a foot in the door. But we finish off with this last question, guys. Nelson, why do you think God is awesome?
Man, so like just throughout history, from the beginning of the Bible to the end of the Bible, we reject God. Like we spit on him, we hit him, we crucified him, and he still loves us, and he still reaches for us, and he still like comes for us. And I think that's just so awesome, because I mean, to do that for some, like you could do that for your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like you may even do that for people that you don't know.
Yeah.
But like to do it for people who just outright hate you.
Sure.
Is just, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nelson, thank you so much again for being on the podcast. Guys, thanks for listening. Be sure to review us and listen to us on iTunes. We love you all. We'll see you guys next time.
# Aaron's testimony.
No.
# Aaron's testimony.